The Brewers season, about a week and a half away from getting underway. It's creeping up on us. Do we know the Brewers starting rotation? Do we know that starting five? We'll try to get a little closer and break that down a little bit when we come up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How about that? I mean, just look at the calendar, and March Madness is upon us, yet we still don't know, I guess, exactly what the Brewers starting rotation is going to be. You know, the years we might have to fill in a couple of spots, but really, I just think there's some uncertainty with the Brewers starting pitching. We'll try to get into it here a little bit because let's face it, if the Brewers are going to win this division, they're going to have solid starting pitching. We'll get to all that coming up here in a little bit. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along. Season number 2 of hosting Locked On Brewers, longtime sports talk show host here in the state of Wisconsin. And it is great being with you. And we're going full boat, ready to go into the season. And, you know, talking to you after every game right here on Locked On Brewers. I can't wait, man. That was a fun season. Well, at times it wasn't fun last year when they weren't scoring any runs, but they did win 92 games. No one's expecting that to happen again, but who knows? That's why we're playing the season. There's a lot of surprises in the baseball season, you know, to project this team and what that's part of it. That's what we do as baseball fans. But it seems like nobody is picking the Milwaukee Brewers right now. We'll get to all that coming up next. Chuck Freeman, again, you get me on Google, Spotify, Apple. You get this podcast on all the major downloads. We're the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet for a simple reason, because you great Brewer fans out there, make us the #1 podcast on the internet for a simple reason. You download us every day, you everydayers. You go to my Twitter account, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. We talk Brewer baseball with you. Lots of chatter coming up here in the next 6-7 months. Yeah, we're ready to go, man. I'm fired up about it. This episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With your winning $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That'll get you there for sure. Yeah. Opening that series against the Mets. When the schedule always comes out, I always check out with the Milwaukee Brewers the holidays. Let's see where the game is going to be. What holidays are they going to be playing? Are they going to be home on Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July? And then for the fun of it, I always check out if they're playing any Sunday night games. And of course, they never are. I think I'm probably the only one who makes a big deal about it, but that's okay because I'd rather go to AmFam Field. I'd rather go there on a Sunday afternoon than a Sunday night anyway. I rather, I do. I mean, Sunday night baseball is not the same deal as Sunday night football. I mean, let's face it, right? Sunday night football, it is a happening. Sunday night baseball, baseball is meant for Sunday afternoon anyway, so I guess I shouldn't complain about it that the Brewers are never on Sunday night baseball. The only reason why I complain about it is just feel like it's the Brewers just never getting that national attention. But don't start me on that right now. Don't start me on. I shouldn't start myself on that right now. So I look for holidays. I look for when if there's any Sunday night games, home games, when my kid's with me, what games we can go to, what games he's got baseball and all that on Sundays. It's my favorite time to go to a Brewer game is Sundays. I'm there a lot anyway. I'm about 75% of the time there covering the games. But I mean, as a fan, love going on Sunday afternoons, getting in a car, taking that shuttle down to AmFam Field, maybe grabbing something to eat afterwards at one of those establishments on Blue Mount Road. Before, after, me, Brady, Shannon, we're down there watching games on a Sunday afternoon. And I love it. I love going to games Sunday afternoons. And, thank goodness that the Brewers have been competitive here the last several years, because for many years on Sunday afternoons, going to games, well, it wasn't fun. Let's face it, it wasn't fun, but the Brewers have made it fun. Now, if we could just take that next hurdle here, that next step, and, win a playoff series. It's been a while since 2018. Remember walking out of Coors Field in 2018 when they beat the Rockies in that series, 3-0, walking out and thinking, man, this is the start of something great. It was rainy. It was cold. It was damp at Coors Field. It was a cold day all the way around, cold, rainy day, but the rain came right after the game in Denver that day. And but walking to my car, getting soaked because I didn't have an umbrella, but thinking, man, this is going to be so cool. And they just never built on it. The regular season they had, but I wouldn't have guessed that 2018 walking out of Coors Field that day would have been the last time the Brewers have won a playoff series. I thought that was the start of something good. Never built on it, but can't do anything about it right now. But if they're going to contend, the pitching staff has got to be something similar to what it was last year. We don't have the horses we did a year ago in this rotation. Certainly not, especially at the top of the rotation. We'll get to that coming up next. One note, Devin Williams, seeing a spine specialist. And I don't have to tell you how great Devin Williams has been out of the bullpen. Large part of their success. Need him, especially if the bullpen is going to take a hit like it is. Need Devin Williams out of the bullpen. He's been bothered with his back. They've done testing on it. They can't figure it out. Continues to be sore. So he's seeing a spine specialist to see what is going on there. I mean, him and his 1.53 earned run average, just amazing. I mean, can we expect him to duplicate that? For some reason, closers always get it from fans when they blow it. But Devin, I mean, look at Devin. How can you argue with Devin Williams and what he's done? The 153 ERA, 8-3 record last year. Yeah, and you're going to have hiccups. We expect these guys to be perfect, but they need Devin Williams healthy. Got to have him healthy for the season. That's an understatement. That's being Captain Obvious on this one. Need him out of the bullpen. Rest of the bullpen, no problems with any of those guys. Now, the starting rotation, Freddie Peralta at the top of the rotation and working our way down through 5. Little uncertainty, to be honest with you. We're going to get to that coming up next. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Yeah, we all like to get in pools and all that and those brackets, but I mean, there's nothing better than going on these games, these Thursday afternoon games, these Friday afternoon games, all day, Saturday, Sunday, and conference tournaments going on too. You all know that. So whether you're betting on a big upset or a #1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, $200 in bonus bets. They've upped it. $200 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who you think is going to win the national championship. All that. Go visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, LOCKEDON. Bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Conference tournaments going on right now. Daytime basketball. It's on. I told Shannon the girls' state basketball tournament just ended here in the state of Wisconsin. Covered the Laconia Spartans, and I said, get ready because conference tournaments are underway. Conference tournaments starting right, Horizon, all that. Big Ten tournament, it's all coming up. Get on all the action. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're the #1 podcast on the internet because you great Brewer fans out there here following us every day on Locked On Brewers. We're coming right back after this timeout. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Again, a week from this Thursday, the Brewers open up a series against the Mets. Of those 3 games, what are the odds one of them gets rained out? In New York, you never could tell with the weather. You could get some 70-degree day. Well, Wisconsin the same way. It's been an unusually warm summer, but I've always said these opening days should start in warm climates or domes. Why take the chance of even playing a series in New York? But they're holding WrestleMania in Philadelphia. So, but, when you have open up series in Minnesota or up here in the upper Midwest, like the old Comiskey Park, White Sox Park, U.S. Cellular, I think it's called now, or whatever. They changed it like 5 or 6 times. You know, when you open it up in an open air stadium up north, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble. AmFam Field, fine. Target Field, what are you doing, Major League Baseball? Don't do that. Mets opening it up in New York, you never know. But still, it gets the blood boiling a little bit that a week from Thursday, we will have, we're going to be starting basketball. How about that? I mean, I just look at the schedule and I get excited about it. I just get fired up about it. And how could you not? I believe I said a week and a half. I meant 2.5 weeks. I jumped ahead a little bit. 2.5 weeks. I thought I was wrong on that. A week and a half seemed a little short to me. But spring training seems to have gone a long time already. My gosh, spring training has just seemed to drag on already. Let's shorten up spring. Let's start the season maybe a little earlier in these warm markets cities. We got these domes and all that. Why not start it at an earlier time? Yeah, today's the 11th. So I stand corrected. We don't start to the 28th. So we got 17 days left on the season. But yeah, they have 3 on the road in New York. Somehow I thought this was the 15th. I thought it went like a week and a half from now. That's when the NCAA basketball tournament starts. Not the Major League Baseball season, but I feel like they've been down there for 2 months already and playing games for at least 6 weeks. And those guys, I can tell you for a fact, those guys are dying to come back and get the season started. They've had enough of spring training already, and I get it. But Freddie Peralta will be that opening day starter in New York for the Brewers, no doubt, on the 28th, provided he's healthy. He's going to have to take he says he's got to pitch over 200 innings. Yeah, they need that, at least that. You're at the top of that rotation. You're going to have to go at least over 200 innings. The strikeouts, we know he's a great strikeout pitcher. The home run balls scare me. Freddie on a championship team would probably be a 3 starter. But on this one, they're expecting a lot out of him. And we'll see if he put the pressure he puts on him. But elevating from a 3 to a number 1 starter, that's a lot. Take away Woodruff and Burns out of this rotation and put him up to number 1 in that rotation. Man, I felt a lot better. I felt a lot better about him being in the 3-hole, because as a 3-hole, he's one of the best 3-hole guys in baseball. As a number 1 starter, I don't see Freddie as a number 1 starter. Now, he's going to have to take a significant jump, not only in the innings, but cutting down the home run ball. The strikeouts are going to be there, hopefully, and the strikeouts are going to, hopefully, as he doesn't wear down as the season goes on, because they need him immensely. Wade Miley in that number 2 hole, assuming that the shoulder is healthy. Again, I'm really iffy on a 39, 38-year-old pitcher who's been, let's face it, Wade Miley's been kind of a journeyman most of his career, yet we're putting him in the number 2 hole. He's pitched great with the Brewers so far. He has in his 2 stints with the Brewers, fantastic. But let's face it, we all love Wade Miley, but we like him a little better in the 5th spot in that rotation, not the 2 hole. And especially if there's an injury or a shoulder issue, everybody gets bumped up. Man, I'm just so concerned about this starting rotation with the Brewers. Who would be the 3 guy right now? Junis? DL Hall? Not Ashby. He came out of the bullpen the other day. He would have to take a big leap coming off that shoulder. Pitching him in that starting rotation of the 3-hole coming off the shoulder, I don't see it right now. I don't see the Brewers putting him in that 3-hole. Not at all. Without the shoulder injury, yeah, possibly he could earn that 3 spot. But that's a lot to ask for him to hit that 3-hole. I would say DL Hall and Junis. God, I wish the Miz was ready for that 3 spot right now. He would look great in it. But obviously he's not going to start the year on the major league level. We'll start at AA. Could see him on the roster later on in the year. But Mizrowski he'll start the year in Double-A. But I see the 3-starter right now, DL Hall. He's the X factor here. From the very beginning, they've told him, you're going to be in our starting rotation. And he's going out there, a lefty. I like him. But there's a lot riding on him, a lot of pressure there. Defending division champs, and he comes over from a talented Baltimore team where he was not able to win a spot in the rotation, but he pitched out of the bullpen. That's how talented the Orioles starting pitching staff was. But here, he's going to be in that rotation, barring a collapse in spring training. Ashby, I think, is going to be the number 3 guy. Colin Ray, the 6'5" kid, very solid. Back end of the rotation guy, 4 or 5 starter. I see Colin Ray, really, really solid, I'll say. Nothing great with Ray, just a solid guy to have in that rotation. And as the 4 or 5 starter right now, I'd give Robert Gasser a shot at it. Throws 94 on the fastball, another lefty. I'd give him a start at that rotation. And maybe he's not ready yet, but I like him better than anybody else. Give him an opportunity here. Joe Ross, I know somebody's screaming right now, Joe Ross. He's going to get an opportunity right now, and maybe he's going to be one of those guys. Maybe they go Peralta, Miley, Hall, Ross, and then Ray. Junis with his slider, possibly, but if I'm going to guess in my rotation as of right now, Freddie, Miley, assuming he's healthy, DL Hall, Ross, and then Ray coming out of that 5 hole. Yeah, it's a lot different than it was a year ago, wasn't it? A lot more scary. But some of you could say, well, they didn't have Woodruff the entire season last year, but I'm saying that going into spring training a year ago, we felt a lot better. I'd put Gasser in, but I have a feeling it's Peralta, Miley, DL Hall, Ray, Ross, and Gasser on the outside looking in. Not that he's not going to make starts this year, but I think that's the way they'll go to start the season. That's my gut feeling. Maybe Junis. Again, you have 7 or 8 guys here fighting for this rotation. It was interesting that they're stretching out Bryce Wilson down at camp. Interesting that they're kind of stretching him out a little bit. He's not expecting to start, but could be one of those things where he pitches a couple of innings as a starter, like 3 innings as a starter, and then it's Johnny bullpen. That's how unsure they are. And we heard Pat Murphy say several weeks ago when camp opened up, the starting rotation was dicey. When your manager says that, especially him, that the starting rotation is dicey, he's even worried about it. Didn't make any trades for any starters, really. Well, DL Hall, I guess, but no established starters in the offseason, and this is how they're going to go. So far, no trades made by the Milwaukee Brewers during camp here. Nothing. Seems like Adames is going to make the roster right now. I thought maybe he could get dealt. Not happening. We'll talk about that bullpen. We'll touch on that bullpen coming up next. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, and what happens if Devin Williams can't give it a go on opening day. That's next here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Thank you every day for joining us here on Locked On Brewers. Spotify, Apple, Google, we're on all the major downloads on Locked On Brewers. Wherever you download your podcasts, we are there. Hit Locked On, search Locked On Brewers, and then always hit the alerts or subscribes. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers and our growing YouTube page. Please hit us up on Locked On Brewers. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. Please download us on Locked On Brewers. We're going to have a fun season. We are. Please, let's not get off to a slow start. Chuck Freeman, hit me up on Twitter. Chuck, Freimund. What if Williams can't go? Who's closing this team? We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. I love Amazon. And I love Fire TV. It's your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. One thing I love about, many things, but with Amazon, with Fire TV, You could take your TV anywhere. You could take it out on the golf course if you want. You could take it out in your backyard, put it on, put the stick in, and you're good. Fire TV, your destination for sports. That's what I do. Sitting outside, the summertime, once it gets warm here in July in Wisconsin, sitting out there watching a Brewer game, on a Saturday night by the fire. Awesome. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TV, as well as the Fire TV stick that can plug into your existing TV, provide access to millions of movies, TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV. I'm telling you, I watch all my sports on it. It's the way to go. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos with your favorite sports or brands, all free. That includes us at Locked On. We're on Fire TV. You bet. Most of the big league, pro leagues, and college conferences on there as well. Fire TV channels let you dive in all the game analysis, highlights, and more. Keep up to date. Watch my show on there. March Madness, NBA, MLB, all that, not to mention all the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and home, a lot more. Learn more. Go to Amazon.com/Locked On Fire TV. That's Locked On Fire TV. It is a great way to go. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers. We're coming right back. All right, welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers. 2.5 weeks, that season starting off. Jumped the gun a little bit. If Devin Williams is not on this roster, well, he's going to be on the roster. But if he's not healthy enough to go on opening day, who's closing on this team? I have to give it to. I'd go with Piamps as my closer. To me, Piamps would get the nod over Uribe. Uribe's probably got better stuff. I mean, the guy throws 103, but Piamps was as solid as an eighth inning man as you can get last year. I want to see Piamps move up to that closer spot if Williams can't go. If Williams can't go, Piamps to me is my closer. Uribe, obviously a big part of this bullpen, but it's Piamps to me. I'm going with Piamps. Devin, please don't have anything wrong with your back. Need you. He's going to see this spine specialist, but Piamps would be my ninth inning guy. Uribe, the eighth inning guy. But God, with Devin in there, you have 7, 8, 9, Uribe, Piamps, and Devin Williams. That bullpen is amazing. That bullpen. And then you look at the guys following out of it too. Milner, Peguero. Peguero's no slouch, and Milner had a great year last year. Bryce Wilson, who early in the season I talked about, well, you can't trust Bryce in high leverage situations. He got in there in some extra inning games last year, got the job done. And we'll see, while they're stretching him out, maybe he makes a couple of starts. Maybe that's the theory behind that. You're making a couple of starts. Definitely middle relief. Bryce Wilson has earned my trust so far. Now let's hope he doesn't let me down. Let's bounce back there and have a nice follow-up. Because I was not impressed with Bryce Wilson, who was with the Pirates. Not at all. I was not. When he came here, I'm like, all right, just another guy to suck up some innings out of the bullpen. But he was more than that last year and earned my trust. More than a guy you could just throw in a 5-5 game in the fifth inning or just to suck up some innings out of the end. He really got the job done and really has been raising some eyebrows and people have liked what he's been doing in spring training so far. So let's keep that up. But let's hold tight with the news from Devin Williams. We love the bullpen. It's the starting rotation that we're going to worry about going forward. But, man, it is. Boy, the offense is certainly going to have to come and play. I don't know if they've done enough to fortify that offense to pick up. And that's why when I hear about the Brewers being picked for fourth in the division, I get it. It's because of that starting rotation isn't there. A year ago, yeah, you could say the Brewers could contend with the Cardinals. You could definitely make a case, and certainly they did. And the Cardinals were the team that faded off in the distance. But this is why we play the games. 162 games, got to get off to a fast start. And that bullpen, not only does that bullpen got to stay healthy. But that rotation, if we're moving people up notches in this rotation, all these guys have got to stay healthy too. These guys have got to stay healthy. There's not much margin of error for that starting rotation. It's going to do it for the show today, everybody. Can't wait. 2.5 weeks, that season starting in New York against the Mets. We got a lot to talk about between now and then. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.